Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and the next expansion of World of Warcraft, Midnight, is bringing with it a ton of new content, so many new features, and I mean this thing looks like it's going to be filled to the brim with brand new areas like the revamped version of Quathlos and Silvermoon, to the class changes like the Apex Talents, the housing, PvP, more open world activities with the prey system, and so much more. But also, Midnight is going to be yet another expansion of World of Warcraft that continues to further improve on the base systems of World of Warcraft. We talk about some fan favorite systems like Transmoging, which was added during Cataclysm, or potentially even Skywriting, which was added as Dragon Riding in Dragonflight and eventually evolved to the Skywriting that we know of today. And we're going to see more improvements like this in Midnight specifically. But a lot of the features I feel like are a lot smaller, and a lot of them get unsung, don't really get a lot of the credit or a lot of time in the spotlight, and that's essentially what I wanted to do for this video specifically, is go over those little tiny improvements to some of the day-to-day systems that we interact with WoW every single day. And I wanted to go over how the systems are going to continue to improve as the player experience improves with the next chapter, that is Midnight. With that being said, as always, if you guys want to keep up with any of the regular changes and updates, content features for expansions like War Within or the upcoming Alpha of Midnight, for instance, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. Since its implementation, Dragon Riding of Dragonflight, which eventually became Skywriting that we know today, has been a fan favorite feature and a welcome addition when it comes to revamping forms of transportation, improving on the general feeling of flight, making it a lot more engaging and interactive, but it also resulted in things like them being able to make vast open worlds and really massive spaces, since we could just cover all the distance very quickly on the back of our Skywriting mount, and then the added features like Dragon Riding or Skywriting races and customizations and rewards you can unlock with it, so they've been able to expand on this system quite a decent bit. However, it looks like more improvements for Skywriting are on the horizon. One of the things that players can agree on is the Vigor charge system is a little finicky at times, though the Vigor charge system is going to be going away completely come Midnight. Instead, they're going to streamline the system, so abilities such as your search forward ability and skyward ascent, to push forward and fly up, those are going to be basically on a charge system. Both of those abilities are going to have 6 charges that they share, and those charges will come back automatically with a cooldown, so you can use them as much as you want to, and then your mount will start regenerating charges little by little. And to some degree, I think this change is going to definitely make the flying a little bit easier, since you no longer have to play around a resource. For some players, this is actually a good thing, but for others, not so much. For players that don't like this change, they're worried that this change may actually make the flying of Midnight a little bit less rewarding, because there's definitely a little bit of skill that takes in order to be able to, catch the speed, catch the momentum, build up Vigor charges, and as soon as you are able to really maximize that full max speed, you're able to maneuver around as much as you want to. But if you make a mistake when you fly, or if let's say you just bump into something and then now you lost all your charges, and that you're having to either stand still to wait for them to build up, or do some weird triangular where you jump off a cliff and fly really close to the ground and build some speed to start generating resources, they're looking to remove some of that awkwardness of like when you make a mistake to get caught up and ramped up again. So that is going to be nice in that regard, and in general it does look like an overall improvement to try to make the Skywriting even easier and even more approachable for many more players out there, which I generally think is a good thing. Another fan favorite feature that's going through a pretty nice revamp is the transmogrification system. First of all, they're going to give it a whole new UI, so this current UI that we have where your character's actual appearance is condensed to the bottom left and the whole list of items that you can pick from, they're going to be adjusting it so you can actually see your character a lot better, and they're going to be revamping it so it's going to be a slot-based system instead of an item-based system. That means when you're transmogrifying your helmet, for instance, you're not transmogrifying your current equipped helmet. For me, it is a Spellweaver's Immaculate Focus, the tier helmet for the Evoker. Instead of transmogrifying the item, I'm transmogrifying the slot. So no matter what item goes in a helm, whether it is my PvP helmet, dungeon helmet, or some random green helmet that I find in the open world, it is always going to take the appearance of whatever I pick for that slot specifically. So you don't actually have to transmog the item itself, you transmogrify the head slot, not the actual helmet. You're transmogrifying the slot that goes in the weapon, not the specific staff that you're currently using on your character and things like that. So that is specifically what they're changing about it. So you'll be able to set your mog and keep it even as you change your gear, which will be amazing for any future characters that you're looking to level. You'll just be able to set your armor set, what you want it to look like. And as you obtain new items from quests and rares and dungeon rewards and whatnot, as you level up a brand new character, no matter what items you equip in your character, they'll always take a very, very specific appearance of the item that you transmog or fight ahead of time. Also, you'll be able to set your armor to be changed to a different mog depending on your situation. And while Blizz wasn't necessarily detailed specifically in terms of exactly how many different situations they are, based on the screenshots that we have, it looks like you'll be able to literally change your entire set, your full transmog attire in rest areas, or if let's say you walk back to your house, your mog automatically changes, or even if you go to the character select when you lock out of a character, want to swap to a different character, you can change your mog in the login screen as well. You also will be able to change your mog when you enter the open world, once you enter inside of a delve, once you enter a dungeon, raid, arena, battleground, so your mog can be adjusted for every different situation, which seems like a lot of different configurations. But if you're someone who wants to wear and wants to show up multiple different mogs, or wants to have like maybe an alliance theme mog for Rana Battlegrounds or something, or something thematic for like maybe the new raid gear for a brand new raid at midnight, you'll be able to do so and customize your character fully. And the more customization options they add into the game, generally the better. So this is definitely one of those fan anticipated features that a lot of players are excited for. Of course, with a brand new expansion, we also got some new player experiences as they're looking to streamline some of the early starts of the game for players that are brand new to WoW, but also for players that are returning. For brand new players, they're looking to change up the way that they level, introduce a lot more gameplay mechanics in between of the story quests, revamp the storyline completely so it flows a little bit better from the Exile's Reach into Dragonflight, and then slowly into War Within, catches you up with all the main story beats, but it also will throw players into level up raids as well, primarily the story raids, in order to be able to experience all the different end bosses of the expansion of Dragonflight. So you'll be fighting bosses like Razagath, Sarkarath, as well as Farak at the very end of that experience. And that's also an opportunity for them to introduce some raid mechanics for new players to learn, like stacking mechanics or spread mechanics or blaze lines for people to dodge and things like that. And this could be the perfect playground and an opportunity for them to teach new players important gameplay and even class mechanics for players to take advantage of, which I think is something that's sorely missing from the base version of the game. A lot of the times you'll have brand new players that don't look up guides. They'll just level up through the story and questing experience of a new expansion, and then they dive into delves, dungeons, and raids, and they have no idea what's going on, and the game didn't teach them about any of the mechanics that they have to now learn on the fly. So being able to give players that opportunity, a taste of some of the different mechanics they'll encounter, and at least teach them as to what you should be doing in those situations, I think that's going to be great and a perfect thing that most new players probably should experience at some point. Returning players will get a completely different experience actually. They'll be thrown into Arathi Highlands from what we know about from the previews of Midnight. Players will be able to get a more simplified yet direct experience, teaching them how to skyride, how to interrupt and use class abilities, and basic rundown for some of the basic skills and so much more. So it's good that they're taking the time to customize the tutorials depending on the player's familiarity with the game. Another thing they're going to be doing is really transforming the entire UI with a bunch of new components. They're going to be adjusting the way that the cooldown tracker works and some of the different abilities you'll be able to track with it. They'll be adding a bunch of in-game add-ons as well, like a damage tracker, as well as a version of boss alerts and boss mods for dungeons and raiding content. And they're also going to be changing up the way that the frames, the actual like unit frames above, or rather the bars above people's heads, work in terms of how they look, the casting animations, especially for some of the dangerous casts. So they're doing a number of things that are really, really good here. But my favorite part out of all the things that they are changing is they're adjusting the way that the resource bar works. This is the little bar that you can see below your character whenever you're mid-combat. And a lot of people actually use this bar in day-to-day gameplay. If you're somebody who doesn't use a lot of weak auras, which usually will center your character's health bar as well as your resources, and will show up certain unique buffs above the bar as well, the personal resource system essentially has that baked in, and a lot of players actually use it because it's really good at tracking some of the more important procs and abilities, which sometimes you can track it through cooldown manager, but not all of them. And this personal resource bar has generally been a reliable bar that many players use because you can move your actual unit frames out of the way and use the bar down the middle and watch for your health bar, watch for your resources, and a lot of players use this bar for basic day-to-day gameplay. So they're actually doing little things like letting you move this bar anywhere you want to and customize it, which is going to be huge. This is a component, one small one that a lot of people use, but some players can't actually modify because normally it's kind of just stuck to your character. It just kind of sits under you, and it'd be nice if you could move it anywhere so you could track things a little bit better. And that, in my opinion, is going to be one of the biggest quality of life things that a lot of players miss, but a lot of players do end up using this bar, and being able to move it anywhere you want to, I think is going to be huge when it comes to having better time tracking all of your characters, resources, and procs, as the bar is that much more detailed than some of the even cooldown manager stuff they've implemented as of recently. Now, another feature that they're looking to simplify and streamline in Midnight is actually the work order system in the professions in general. While they're still light on how they want to do it, they do have at least a number of cool ideas for it. One of the things they want to do when it comes to professions, let's say you're trying to create, I don't know, a good two-handed sword, like a charged claymore. And there's, right now, when you're crafting an item from, let's say, a work order system, or if you're crafting it for yourself or one of your old characters, right now there's 5 tiers of quality from rank 1, which is none, to rank 2, rank 3, rank 4, rank 5, and most players just want to craft stuff at rank 5, but you do have to have enough skill in order to be able to close some of those gaps into the rank 3, rank 4, and rank 5, which takes a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of skilling, and even certain equipment that players need to run, as well as use the currency that is the concentration to be able to reach some of those rank 5 crafts. One of the things they're looking to do, and they're looking to simplify a number of things, they're still light on details like I said, but one of the things they want to do first of all is eliminate the rank 1 and rank 2 crafts out of the game completely, which should mean that base craft of weapon will always be a rank 3. It should hopefully mean that you will need less skills in order to be able to potentially reach the highest rank of craft. So this change would hopefully make it easier for players to be able to craft some of the higher quality armors and weapons and all the other things a little bit easier. And hopefully they'll do some of the more simplifications regarding the materials as well as the reagents. I think generally what they did with the whole revamp to the profession systems in Dragonflight has been good, especially with how work order system is able to bridge the gap between players that really get into professions and players that don't get into professions but still want some of the best stuff crafted, so somebody can just really work super hard to get into leatherworking, and then you can just kind of pay them as well as give them the mats to make some of the best items for you. Especially when it comes to guilds and groups collaborating together, I think that's really the best part about the system, is how you can really band together to be able to basically help everybody out. And the fact that professions allow you to choose which items you want as long as you have the mats, and then guarantee some best secondary stats that are always an upgrade for your character, guarantee high enough item level as long as somebody's proficient with the profession, as well as apply embellishments and all that customization that you can do, all those hoops you could jump through to guarantee that the item is going to be a guaranteed upgrade, I think is generally good. But definitely needs a bit of more simplification when it comes to this system. I think they have really good bones, but the more streamlined they can make it, the better. And that is something they're looking forward to adjusting in the future. So another feature they're looking to improve heading into Midnight is actually both the single button assistant as well as the assisted highlight feature, which essentially is like a rotation helper. Assisted highlight will highlight ability that you should be using next with a blue square above them. Then it can be adjusted for single target or AoE situations on the fly. And it's literally what it says on the tin. It is a rotation helper. It attempts to provide you the best ability you should be using in your rotation, depending on the situation, depending on the procs and things like that. The alternative version to it, like if you don't actually want to learn how to play your class and don't really want to use the assistant and would rather, I don't know, press one single button, you can literally pull it from your spellbook, a single button assistant, which will cast all your damage and abilities for you using the assisted highlight as a guide, but the global cooldown will be reduced. So it is not meant to be something that's meant to give players an advantage or give you the best DPS out there. So it's definitely not meant to be an optimal way to play a character, but it is an alternative way to play a character, to say the least. And in general, this feature is not amazing for endgame players that are looking to maximize their DPS and get into mythic rating. No, it is still serviceable, however, and to some degree, it does actually help certain types of players when it comes to the raw damage. Definitely not the best of the best features when you're trying to like get really incredibly good at your class, however. But it does, if anything, it does help raise the DPS floor for many players out there. Statistically, and this actually has been proven by data, as some players actually, when they play the class normally, were able to push out less damage than the single button assistant does. But ever since the implementation of the one button assistant and the highlight feature, the raw average DPS of players based on logs that we saw for raids like Undermine in particular, which is when this was implemented, the average DPS of players since the button went up, which tells us that not an insignificant amount of players, when they play the class normally, actually put up less DPS than when just using a button that plays the character for you. And to be fair, when you are questing as a brand new player with World of Warcraft, there isn't really a lot going on that challenges you to learn how to play your class optimally. The world is just not dangerous enough for you to have to go out of your way to look up a class leveling guide or anything like that, which is a good thing or a bad thing, depending how you look at it. I think it can be good if you're someone who's looking for immersion, not really looking for like difficulty in gameplay, and are just looking to get lost in the world and do some exploration, do some quests, have some fun with it. But I do think the challenge of older versions of WoW, like WoW Classic, for instance, the original vanilla, they were a little bit better at teaching you how to play a class well, because the open world was pretty challenging, and if you were a mage and you were constantly running out of mana, or a rogue that wasn't using utility and crowd control to survive, trial and error, you eventually learned how to play a class well. Like, you were forced to either learn how to play better, or you were just gonna die every couple of fights and barely complete any of your quests. So, if anything, I do think retail WoW and Midnight definitely needs to have more tools to give players an opportunity to learn how to play their class better, to be challenged so that you're encouraged to play your class well. And I think that's part of the reason why they want to revamp that new player experience, but having tools like the highlight rotation and the one button rotation can also be helpful when it comes to at least letting players know what buttons you should be pressing as one spec or another, and potentially could be used if they make additional changes as a possibly good learning tool as they improve the accuracy of it, potentially even streamline some of the classes going forward as well. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like, as I would very much appreciate it. Also, be sure to join our Discord community, especially if you want to keep up with any future content updates like Legion Remix, which is coming up very soon, or potentially Midnight Alpha, whenever they get an official announcement. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.